He hadn't spoken to a soul in over 3 months. Not a single word, not even to himself. Just the wind, the fence posts, and the echo of a past he refused to dig up. But that quiet life Thaddeus Crow had clung to like a shield was about to crack wide open. It started with voices, real voices, not the kind that haunt you in your sleep, but the kind that carry through dry air like wind chimes in a storm. He was hammering a loose rail on his fence when he heard them, faint at first, then clearer. Laughter? No. Children, crying. He froze, squinting toward the road. 3 figures trudged up the dusty path, women with children in tow. Their shadows stretched long in the heat, shimmering against the scorched dirt. Thaddeus hadn't seen another human since his spring supply run into town, and now, here were 3 strangers walking straight toward his gate. One of the kids, a little girl who couldn't be older than 3, tripped and fell, letting out a wail. The woman beside her didn't miss a beat, scooped her up mid-stride, eyes locked on the farmhouse. Thaddeus's chest tightened. People meant questions. People meant problems. And worst of all, people meant remembering. His hand moved without thinking, brushing the old rifle propped against the fence. Not a threat, just habit. Strangers didn't come out here unless they needed something, or were running from something. The lead woman had dark hair escaping from under a bonnet. Her dress was sun-bleached and ragged, but her posture held steady, determined. The 2 others flanked her, one carrying a bundle wrapped in cloth, the other holding a small boy's hand. The closer they got, the clearer their faces became, drawn, tired, desperate. The lead woman raised a hand. "Sir," she called, her voice thin but steady. "We don't mean any trouble, just need a moment of your time." Thaddeus said nothing. 20 yards between them, close enough to see the dust on their skin, the fear in their eyes. The children clung to their mothers like shadows. "My name is Clarabelle," she continued, stepping forward. "These are my friends, Mercy and Violet. We've been walking since dawn and—" She looked back at the kids, then back at him. "We need help." Those 3 words hit him like a hammer to the ribs. He'd spent years crafting a life designed to avoid exactly this, a plea for help. But as he looked at the boy stepping between his mother and a man he'd never met, as he noticed the girl's legs trembling with exhaustion, something in him shifted. Clarabelle lowered her voice. "We just need somewhere safe to spend the night. We can't keep walking with the children." That's when he saw it, the truth behind her words. And what scared him most was that he already wanted to say yes. For 15 years, no one had set foot inside Thaddeus Crow's home. But when he opened that door and gestured them inside, he knew he was letting in more than just strangers. He was letting in noise, emotion, memory. The silence in the house felt fragile now, like it might shatter if someone breathed too loud. The boy, Mercy's son, watched Thaddeus with a stare that felt far too old for 8. He reminded him of someone. Himself, maybe. "Sit anywhere," Thaddeus said, and instantly regretted it. The parlor had 1 chair, a wooden bench, and a thick layer of dust. Clarabelle settled with the toddler in her lap, the child sucking her thumb and watching the room with wide, curious eyes. Mercy stood, hand on her boy's shoulder. Violet clutched her bundle tightly, like it might disappear. "You walked since dawn," Thaddeus said, staying by the doorway. "From where?" The 3 women exchanged looks. Clarabelle answered first. "A boarding house, 20 miles east, but the situation turned difficult." "Difficult how?" It was Mercy who replied. "The man who ran it said we owed more than money for our stay. When we refused, he gave us till morning to leave. Said he had buyers." That old rage began bubbling up in Thaddeus's chest, the same rage that had driven him out here in the first place. "So you left?" "We had to," Violet whispered. "A woman in town told us about your ranch, said you lived alone, said you weren't like the others." That hit him hard. They'd risked 20 miles in the heat, with hungry children, based on a stranger's hope that he might be decent, that he might care. The toddler slipped from Clarabelle's lap and wandered to the cold fireplace, pointing at the ashes. Thaddeus watched her, something cracking in his chest. "When's the last time you cooked a real meal?" Clarabelle asked softly. He didn't answer. But she wasn't judging. He could see that. She was just seeing him, the dust, the emptiness, the way he stayed physically apart from them all, as if nearness might break him. That's when Mercy's boy, Samuel, whispered to his mother. Mercy turned to Thaddeus. "He wants to know if you have any food." They haven't eaten since yesterday morning. Thaddeus swallowed hard. I'll fix something, he said, stepping into the kitchen. But as his hand touched the pantry door, Clarabelle's voice stopped him cold. There's something else, Mr. Crow, she said. Something we haven't told you yet, about why we really left. Thaddeus turned, already knowing whatever she was about to say would make everything harder. Clarabelle stood there in the dim parlor, her hands resting gently on her daughter's shoulders, her voice steady, despite the tremor in her eyes. The boarding house owner wasn't just demanding money, she said. He told us he had buyers, men who'd pay for women like us, women with no husbands, women with children and no place to go. He gave us till sunrise. Thaddeus's jaw tightened. That familiar fury, the kind he hadn't let himself feel in years, rose in his chest like a fire. Men who preyed on the desperate, who turned fear into leverage, who called cruelty business. He'd known them. He'd buried their victims. That's not all, Mercy added. He sent someone after us. A man on horseback rode past us an hour ago, asking questions at every house between here and town. Thaddeus stared at them, 3 women and their tired children huddled in his old, quiet home, and he knew. Helping them wasn't just a kind gesture. It meant stepping into the storm they'd tried to outrun. Clarabelle's voice softened. The woman who told us about you, she said your name was Thaddeus Crow. She said you lost your family, and that's why you live alone. She said you'd understand what it means to protect children. Thaddeus's heart stopped. Sarah, Emma, their laughter, the fever, the doctor who never came, the sheriff who never cared. She had no right to tell you that, he said roughly. Maybe not, Clarabelle said gently. But she was right, wasn't she? Before he could answer, the youngest girl, Violet's daughter, wandered over to the old wooden shelf and picked up a dusty wooden horse, the one he'd carved for Emma's 4th birthday. She looked up at him, tiny fingers wrapped around it. Can I play with this? She whispered. The words caught in his throat. The child looked so much like Emma, it hurt. And then, hoofbeats. Fast. Close. Mercy moved to the window. Someone's coming, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Thaddeus didn't hesitate. Get the children to the back room. Stay quiet till I say otherwise. He stepped onto the porch with his rifle. 2 men dismounted near the gate. The first was lean, sharp-eyed, dressed like a man who knew how to make pain profitable. The second made Thaddeus go cold. Sheriff Marcus Cale. 15 years ago, Cale had stood in this very yard and told Thaddeus there'd be no investigation, that the doctor's refusal to treat his family wasn't a crime worth pursuing, that sometimes justice simply wasn't available to folks like him. Cale, Thaddeus said, rifle resting in his hands, state your business. Garrett, the lean one, stepped forward. I'm looking for 3 women who stole something that belongs to me. Thaddeus didn't move. Haven't seen anyone. That's funny, Garrett said, walking closer. We followed their tracks straight to your gate. A floorboard creaked behind him. Then a muffled cry, one of the kids. Cale smiled, cold. Sounds like you've got company, Crow. You're not welcome here. Garrett's mask slipped. Those women are mine. They've got debts to pay. The only thieves I see, Thaddeus said, are standing in my yard. Garrett's hand twitched toward his holster. Sheriff Cale's hand hovered near his own. Inside, Samuel's voice cut through the tension. Mama, is the bad man going to find us? The words stung like a bullet. Cale took a step forward. You're harboring fugitives. That makes you one too. Then arrest me, Thaddeus growled. Come on up here and try. Garrett offered one last bribe. $50 a head. Walk away and no one gets hurt. You ride off, Thaddeus said, and I don't put a hole in you big enough to drive a wagon through. And then Clarabelle stepped onto the porch, calm. Brave. Talk to me, she told Garrett, but leave him out of it. No, Thaddeus said, panic rising. Get back inside. She didn't move. No more running. Some fights are worth having. And then she said something that shifted everything. We didn't steal anything, unless you count our right to say no. Garrett sneered. You signed contracts, room, board, and services in exchange for debt relief. Contracts signed under duress mean nothing, Thaddeus shot back. Any honest judge would tell you that. Good thing Judge Morrison isn't honest, Cale smirked. Man's got debts of his own. Disgust twisted Thaddeus's stomach. Then Mercy and Violet joined Clarabelle on the porch, all 3 mothers standing tall, and behind them Samuel stepped forward. My mom is not for sale, he said. That one line from the mouth of a trembling boy hit harder than any bullet, and for the first time something shifted in Cale's eyes, but Garrett didn't care. He pulled a second pistol and pointed it at Samuel. "You come with me," he said, "or the boy pays." McKinley's men drew their rifles, but Garrett had the upper hand. Insurance, he called it. Clarabelle stepped forward. "Take me," she said. "Just leave the children." "All three of you," Garrett snarled, "or the boy dies." Thaddeus's heart broke. These women weren't just surviving. They were shielding their children with their own lives. And suddenly he understood. This wasn't about him anymore. It never had been. "Nobody's going anywhere," Thaddeus said, stepping off the porch. "Stay back!" Garrett shouted, but the shot that rang out wasn't his. It was Wade McKinley's. Garrett screamed, clutching his shoulder. His gun hit the dirt. "Threatening children," McKinley muttered, "crosses every damn line." Cale reached for his weapon, only to find 5 rifles aimed straight at him. "You're done," McKinley said. "Get your friend and ride. And if you ever speak the name Riverside again, I'll make sure everyone in the territory knows what kind of lawmen you really are." Cale said nothing, just helped Garrett onto his horse. "This isn't over," Garrett hissed. "It is," Thaddeus said, "and if you come back, I won't miss next time." They rode off, and for the first time in years, Thaddeus felt the silence that followed wasn't empty, it was peaceful. Clarabelle's daughter held up the wooden horse. "Can I keep this?" "It belongs here," Thaddeus said softly. "Just like you, if you want to stay." "You mean it?" Mercy asked. "This ranch has been quiet too long," he replied. "Could use the sound of laughter again." That night, for the first time in 15 years, Thaddeus Crow lit the lamps and left the windows open. And as children laughed and women whispered stories over warm food, he realized that maybe the strongest people aren't the ones who fight alone. They're the ones who learn how to let others stand beside them.